Good morning, Brew Daily Show. I'm Neal Freyman.
And I'm Toby Howell.
Today, the founder of Silk Road is free after a presidential pardon, why some are celebrating and others are alarmed.
Then Elon Musk called BS on President Trump's first big tech investment, trouble brewing in the White House. It's Thursday, January 23rd. Let's ride. Well, it is still freezing out, not just in New York, but all over the country. Snow on Florida beaches, people ice skating down streets in New Orleans. Winter is here, Neal.
Not only is winter here, we are also in peak hoodie season. Nothing pairs with sub-zero temperatures quite like a comfy, cozy sweatshirt.
And rumor has it that if that sweatshirt has the letters MBD on it, it doubles the comfiness coefficient. Lucky for you, we still have a few Morning Brew Daily hoodies available for purchase in the Morning Brew shop.
To get your hands on one, just go to shop.morningbrew.com, then click on Top Collections to find Morning Brew Daily. It's hard to miss. Then, here's the biggest part. The hoodies are 50% off right now, so they're going to go fast.
Supplies are limited, and we're staring down at least a few more months of cold temps, so take out your phone, take out your laptop, and head to shop.morningbrew.com to get your hands on an MBD sweatshirt while they're still available.
Stay warm, people.
Now a word from our sponsor, Yahoo Finance. Neal, have I ever told you about the first time I used Yahoo Finance?
Somehow, even though we talk literally every day, you have not told me the story.
It was my junior year of high school. We did a stock picking competition over the year where we would manage a virtual portfolio on Yahoo Finance.
Okay, I take it back. You have indeed told me this story.
Well, don't spoil it. Anyway, I tried to go the biotech route and looked for a company about to get approval for a new drug. Long story short, the drug did not get approved, and I got dead last.
But the moral of the story is that even when Toby was back in high school, Yahoo Finance was a great resource for learning and studying financial markets.
Exactly. The interface wasn't as polished in 2014 as it is now, but Yahoo has a long track record of arming the financially curious with the tools and knowledge you need to grow your investments, whether real or fake stock picking competition.
And whether you're a 17-year-old searching for under-the-radar biotech stocks or an investing pro looking for an edge, head to yahoofinance.com today.
Yesterday, we got some grade A gab from around the business world as everyone from Elon Musk to Jamie Dimon spoke their minds about Trump tariffs and TikTok. So for our top story today, we're going to pick some of the more notable quotes dropped by a cast of business characters as a jumping off point to talk about some news. Up first, Trump's cadre of billionaires are already fighting Real Housewives style. Elon Musk poured cold water on the Trump-backed Stargate initiative announced this week that aims to invest $500 billion into AI infrastructure. They don't actually have the money, he wrote in a reply to an OpenAI post on the announcement. SoftBank has well under $10 billion secured. I have that on good authority. Now, Musk is not exactly a neutral party here. He has long had beef with Sam Altman and OpenAI after its for-profit turn, with Musk later posting that Sam Altman is a swindler. But Neal, going out and publicly undermining a big announcement from Trump is one of the first public displays of friction between these two.
Yeah, I do want to underscore that because it's a big deal. Trump hauled in Masayoshi's son, Sam Altman, Larry Ellison for this huge announcement that got a lot of press. We talked about it. It was $500 billion pledged. And then Elon Musk, one of his top advisors who helped him gain the presidency, the next day, or actually the same day, it was 11:35 p.m., goes out and calls BS on it. That is a big deal, and we'll see how this plays out in the future. As you said, there is a background here, and it seems to be a continuation of the long-standing beef between Elon Musk and Sam Altman. Remember, they co-founded OpenAI together almost a decade ago, and then they had this very dramatic falling out when Sam Altman wanted to make the company turn it from a nonprofit to a for-profit. Elon Musk didn't like that, so now he started a direct OpenAI competitor called XAI. So now these two guys are going at it in industry and in politics. It's something to watch.
It's something to watch. Elon doesn't have his hands in this particular pie, which is potentially why he is undermining the project in public. Or maybe they really don't have the money secured. We don't necessarily know at this point. But what we are seeing is what happens when you have a lot of billionaires in the henhouse. You're going to have these clashes, these public clashes too, because Elon Musk owns X, which is where this exchange went down. One person, though, who is trying to remain above it all is Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella. He was asked by CNBC, what do you think about Elon posting this? What do you think about him saying that the funding is not there? And he told CNBC that I'm good for my $80 billion, which is not a sentence that a lot of people in the world can utter, but Satya Nadella can do that. So it does look like there is some friction. Even the fact that Satya Nadella doesn't even know what's going on with this other funding stream shows that maybe Stargate isn't off to the best start, but he did say that $80 billion will be funneled into this project from Microsoft.
And maybe they don't have the cash on hand. I guess I'm defending Stargate now, but they could raise money, right? They could finance it to get the amount of money that they need to build these huge data centers. So definitely a big story we're going for because, data centers and AI infrastructure, yes, it's the subject of some catfights between billionaires, but also it's a big deal for the future of technology, future of U.S. national security. So building these data centers is important. Who builds them is obviously a subject of a fight right now. Our next quote is, "Get over it." That's the tough love delivered by JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon, telling people who are worried about Trump's tariff threats to make like the 2003 Red Sox and cowboy up. In an interview at the World Economic Forum in Davos, the head of America's largest bank said if tariffs are, quote, a little inflationary, but it's good for national security, so be it. National security trumps a little more inflation. It is a rare endorsement of Trump's tariffs than we've been accustomed to from the C-suite, who largely warned that tariffs would, yes, be inflationary and cause major disruptions to trade flows and the economy. Since taking office, Trump has announced plans to slap tariffs on the U.S.'s three largest trading partners, Canada, Mexico, and China, on February 1st, a week from now. He's readying 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico and an additional 10% on China, countries that account for more than a third of the goods and services imported and exported by the U.S. and support tens of millions of jobs. But the question remains, until they do go into effect, whether it's a negotiating ploy to extract concessions or a real threat. At least in Dimon's case, he's not losing sleep at night either way.
Right. The fear from a lot of economists have been that these duties, these tariffs, could spark this global trade war and they could reignite inflation domestically. That's always been what we've been hearing. But they could also protect American interests, which is now the tune that Jamie Dimon is singing. He is saying that national security trumps a little bit of inflation. He also went on to say that he just views tariffs as a tool. That is it. They're not, they can be a weapon depending on how you use them. They can be a tool depending on how you use them. So he was just trying to provide a little bit of perspective on these things because tariffs has become such a boogeyman in a lot of these conversations. Another quote that came out of Davos as well was the Director General of the World Trade Organization said, "Can we chill?" when he was talking to CNN reporter in Davos. I think we shouldn't get overexcited about the issue of tariffs. Let's wait and see what actually gets done. So we're seeing a little bit of different tunes sung as we are kind of approaching the date when these things come into effect.
I think maybe these CEOs are trying to get a little bit, like a birdie in Trump's ear and saying, you can apply tariffs, but just be strategic about it and don't do this broad swath of tariffs and hit everything universally because that would seriously knock the economy. One item that is very much in focus is crude oil. 60% of all of America's crude oil imports come from Canada. If that gets taxed, then you're going to see gasoline prices go up. And those were the main factor in that bout of inflation we had last month. So we'll see what happens. The countdown is on February 1st. Here we go.
Our last quote comes from a place of optimism, and that is, "It's in everybody's interest." And I'll pause a beat to let you guess what that is in reference to. Yep, you probably got it. It's about saving TikTok. Speaking at Davos, Bill Ford, an American venture capitalist who's on ByteDance's board, is optimistic that the stars will align and a deal will get done to secure TikTok's long-term future in the United States. Ford went on to say that the Chinese government, the U.S. government, and ByteDance would likely meet by the end of this week to begin negotiations as time starts ticking on the 75 days Trump's executive order gave the app to work out a change of control deal. Neal, inevitably, one's mind wanders to potential buyers once again, and Trump has tabbed Elon Musk and Larry Ellison as two potential options he wants to get involved, while a joint bid from Kevin O'Leary of Shark Tank fame has also been floating around. What do you think, though, about about this board member's optimism about this potential TikTok deal?
I mean, he obviously has more insight into I do, but it seems well placed. The Chinese government has said that it might take a more hands-off approach to selling TikTok, or to have ByteDance sell TikTok than previously thought. We thought that the Chinese government would block a deal, and earlier this week it signaled that it would be a little more laissez-faire about it. Yeah, we have some interesting potential buyers here. Frank McCourt, who's a billionaire, former owner of the Dodgers. Kevin O'Leary. I don't think Mr. Wonderful is in the running. I'm sorry, Mr. Wonderful. One company that I think has a pretty good chance here is Oracle. It already works with TikTok hosting its servers here in the United States. Larry Ellison, who is the founder and CEO, has a good relationship with President Trump. So I think Oracle is absolutely in the running. They already have a relationship. And then Elon Musk is also high on the list of people who would be able to buy TikTok should it sell, because Elon Musk is favored by the Chinese government. He's gone to Shanghai. He's built a plant there. He has a good relationship. They sell Teslas in China, so that might be another name to watch here.
Moving on, Ross Ulbricht, the mastermind behind the infamous Silk Road that let you buy everything from hard drugs to fake IDs using cryptocurrency, has been granted a full pardon by President Donald Trump. It ends an over decade-long imprisonment tied to him operating the dark web's Amazon, a marketplace that at its peak saw $200 million worth of illicit activity flow through the site. Ulbricht was jailed in 2015 for creating and running the Silk Road, which resulted in 2 life sentences plus 40 years on charges including drug trafficking and money laundering. But freeing Ulbricht became a campaign talking point for Trump as he aimed to curry favor with the crypto and libertarian crowds, who always champion Ulbricht for his role in demonstrating Bitcoin's effectiveness as a currency that can operate outside of the traditional finance system. Neal, Ulbricht has been a martyr in these communities for his advocacy for privacy and free market principles. The editor of Bitcoin magazine told the New York Times that it's hard to argue Ulbricht isn't the most successful, influential entrepreneur of the early Bitcoin era. And now that entrepreneur and that martyr is finally free.
Yeah, let's dig into his philosophy. Apparently in college, he developed an interest in libertarian economic theory, which advocates for criminal justice reform. Basically, just get government away from the free market as possible. No intervention. Let people exchange goods and services that they want to. In a letter to the trial judge in 2015, he said he didn't create Silk Road for financial gain, but he believed at the time that people should have the right to buy and sell whatever they wanted, so long as they weren't hurting anyone else. The problem with that is, in this case that they brought before the jury, was that they said people were hurt by Silk Road. There was, heroin and other illicit hard drugs being exchanged in the millions of dollars. They linked 6 deaths to Silk Road. And then in another instance, they also accused Ulbricht of doing some murders for hire. And that wasn't a part of the case, because they couldn't find any evidence, but that was a part of the conversation, that he literally hired hitmen to kill people who he thought were going after him. So there was some, while he wasn't prosecuted for that, wasn't charged for that, there was this undercurrent of violence that pervaded the whole thing.
Yeah, the judge who eventually sentenced Ulbricht back in 2015, she did not view him as this figure that was, fighting for digital libertarianism. Instead, she said that he was no better a person than any other drug dealer, and passed down this pretty extreme sentence, life in prison, 2 times life in prison without parole, which ended up she was trying to discourage people from following in his footsteps. It almost had the exact opposite effect. It turned him into a martyr. It turned him into this figurehead that the crypto community and the libertarian community kind of put on a pedestal, and it became a very good political, talking point for Trump, who wanted to court the crypto community, who wanted to court the libertarian community. So he kind of took it and ran with it. He said in one quote at a Libertarian Party convention back in May, when he's still campaigning, "If you vote for me on day 1, I will commute the sentence of Ross Ulbricht." So he became kind of a political instrument for Trump to use, and he followed through on his word, and soon after he was elected, he did in fact commute Ulbricht's sentence. All right, Neal, I've been waiting all week. I've been waiting months for this one, actually. It is Neal's Numbers.
Welcome to Neal's Numbers, the segment where I share 3 stats from the week's news that will make you more of a know-it-all than Hermione. For my first number, are Americans learning how to relax and take off work? Possibly. According to a new Labor Department report, the number of people in the U.S. who took vacations in December reached an all-time high going back to 1976. And you weren't waiting for the holidays either. About 6.3 million clocked out of work the first week of December, which was a 20% increase from the same period the year before. Planes, trains, automobiles, you name the mode of transportation, Americans were using it. A record 107 million traveled by car over the holidays. Airports were their busiest ever, and cruise bookings at U.S. ports were up 37% from a year ago. A number of reasons could explain this vacation frenzy, the Washington Post explained. More states like Illinois and Nevada have recently begun requiring paid leave for all workers. Then there's the fact that more workers are sticking around at their jobs instead of hopping company to company like during COVID. That means they might have banked more vacation time or simply burned out with what they've been doing and needed some R&R.
Look at us taking some vacation days. Good job, everyone, for taking some time off. Also, it's justice for anyone who swears the security lines have been getting longer and that hotels you have to book further and further advance. People really are traveling more. And if you zoom out to not just America, but the world level too, the UN's World Trade Organization released its 2024 year in review data and found that the tourism industry is 100% back. Actually, I should say it's 99% back because 99% of the number of people who traveled in 2019 traveled this year. So that adds up to about 1.4 billion people traveling internationally. And Europe was a very popular destination.
Europe was the most popular destination with 747 million tourists in 2024. The number one country that was visited last year should come as no surprise. I'll give you a second to think about it. That would be France, right? We had a lot of big events in France last year, 2024 Summer Olympics, the reopening of the Notre Dame Cathedral, the 80th anniversary of D-Day in Normandy. So people were pretty hype about those events. And then in second place was Spain with 98 million tourists, just 2 million short of France.
That's crazy too, because remember how anti-tourist Spain was, or anti-tourist the headlines coming out of Spain were because remember residents of Barcelona were shooting water pistols at tourists saying that they didn't want them in their city anymore. And I don't blame them too, because I mean, they got 98 million visitors. Paris had the dang Olympics and only beat it by 2 million. So a lot of people are coming to these European countries.
My second number concerns a scandal engulfing Indian politics, social media, and bigwig economists. The national freakout is about taxes on popcorn. According to the Wall Street Journal, last month, the government ruled that popcorn should be subject to a 3-tiered tax system with different rates for different types of popcorn. Caramel popcorn, you're going to be taxed at 18%, essentially a luxury good. Popcorn packaged in plastic, 12% tax rate. If it's sold loose, it'll only be taxed at 5%. The order got people riled up and confused. Why have such a complex system for taxing popcorn? I mean, we know popcorn contains multitudes, but is this breakdown completely necessary? When the finance minister tried to clarify how it all worked, she only invited more criticism. I want to explain the whole background of the popcorn taxes to you. Salted popcorn, caramelized popcorn, plain popcorn, she said. When it comes to popcorn's tax treatment, as long as it's salty, whether it is with salt, spice, tangy, chili powder, that's all 5%. But when it has added caramelized sugar, it is no longer salty. Got it? Got it.
That was my favorite part, is that this finance minister tried to explain it, tried to clarify, and then just uttered a sentence that absolutely provided no clarification whatsoever, just basically listed out the different types of popcorn once more. But yes, this whole fight is emblematic of something that's been going on in India for a while now. They have been desperately trying to cut some red tape because it has this kind of reputation as being notoriously hard to do business in because of just how big it is and how many different regions and sectors have different tax rules. In 2017, they tried to pass this tax reform called the Goods and Services Tax that aimed to simplify their tax code. The backers wanted just 2 tax rates, just simplify everything. It ended up having over a half dozen, and didn't necessarily do what it promised to do. And I think it's all come to a head in this popcorn tax that is emblematic of so much else that is wrong with their tax system.
Okay, all tax rates being equal for popcorn, which popcorn are you going for?
I mean,
sweet, salty, kettle corn.
I'm definitely going,
buttery.
You can't eat too much of the sweet popcorn, though that I do think that should be taxed the highest because that just has that luxury feel to it. So I'm going to just go with that normal, salty movie theater popcorn.
For my final number, any Kidz Bop fans out there? I know I was one many moons ago. Well, if you can believe it, the franchise just put out its 50th album with tracks including Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter and Chappell Roan's Hot to Go. If you are not familiar with Kidz Bop, it's a group of teens who cover popular music, but do it in a very happy way, for lack of a better word. As the New York Times reported, it was started in 2001 by two lawyers and has become a music behemoth with dozens of its albums having charted in the Billboard Top 10, putting them in the same company as the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. Now, the funny part about Kidz Bop, which I didn't realize as a kid listening to them, is that they sanitize some of the racier lyrics in songs to make them more rated G. So, for example, in Hot to Go, they revised the lyric, I could be the one or your new addiction, to I could be the one or a new condition. And in Telephone by Lady Gaga, out in the club and I'm sipping that bub was changed to out in the club and I'm eating that grub. So true.
Don't you love when you go to the club as a 12-year-old and eat some grub there? But Kidz Bop is this behemoth. It has just been something that had remarkable staying power. It does feel like a very early 2000s thing to be invented, but the fact that they're still churning out albums today shows that there's clearly a gap in the market. And that was something, it was founded by two lawyers in 2001 that they identified. They were like, all right, there's music for tiny babies. You know, it's just usually not even lyrics involved. Rafi maybe was something you listened to.
Rafi and lyrics?
Yeah, that was, he produced bangers. But that's more for like sub 5-year-olds. And then you have normal music, which maybe has some lyrics in there that you don't want your kids listening to. So there's this whole age group from like age 4 to age 12 that was missing music, and Kidz Bop slid in to fill that gap, which is why we're still talking about Kidz Bop 50 to this day.
And the most famous alum of Kidz Bop, I have to say, which I didn't know, Zendaya.
That is a great factoid to bust out. The New York Times did this whole piece on Kidz Bop, their 50th album. And in there, they put a picture of Zendaya in Kidz Bop and then a picture of her in Challengers. I was like, wow, you couldn't have picked any other movie there. So it is showing, though, that these alumni have gone on to spread their wings and do bigger and better things. Now let's sprint to the finish with a couple more headlines you may have missed. Up first, if you were scrolling Instagram and came across a surprise picture of President Trump or JD Vance the other day, you weren't alone. Many Instagram and Facebook users reported confusion as to how posts from POTUS were popping up in their feeds. No, Zuck wasn't hacking into your phone and making you follow the new president. It was just part of the regular process of turning over the White House social media accounts. The general policy that most social media platforms like X and Instagram have adopted is to hand over the POTUS, VP, and First Lady handles to the new administration, but leave the follower counts untouched. So it is possible that 4 or 8 years ago, you made the decision to click follow on POTUS, a decision present you may have forgotten, leading to some of that confusion.
That's not the only gripe people have. They're saying that they're also unfollowing these accounts, but it's not going through. They're still following VP, POTUS, and they're still following them. And Meta did acknowledge that actually, yes, that is a bug. That is something that they're working on. They're saying maybe just a lot of people are unfollowing them once they're realizing what's happening. So they're saying, yeah, just take some time. You eventually will be unfollowed if you do click that. Another thing that Meta is doing that you might see that these presidential VP accounts are being recommended to you, and that is because Meta reversed course recently and said we're actually going to put more political content on people's feeds after saying for a few years that they wanted to reduce the amount of political content. So that is another reason why you might be recommended these accounts.
Finally, soup lovers, if you've ever been sipping on some delicious broth and thought to yourself, wish this was harder, then boy does Progresso have the thing for you. The soup brand just unveiled Soup Drops, a cough drop shaped hard candy flavored like chicken noodle soup. If candy flavored like broth, savory veggies, soft egg noodles, and just a hint of parsley wasn't haunting enough to think about, just wait till you hear the tagline Progresso cooked up. soup drops. Soup you can suck on. Neal, somehow the first batch Progresso dropped sold out in under an hour. Who are these little soup freaks?
If you want soup you can suck on, and that soup is traditional chicken noodle soup from Progresso, then they're actually doing drops every Thursday, which is today, throughout the month of January, which I guess is National Soup Month, obviously. We should have known that. But yeah, so you can log onto the website. I'm sure they're going to go in a few minutes now because this got a ton of press. Soup you can suck on. Great tagline, but I don't know if I would suck on this.
Absolutely, I would not. Anything savory, anything soup flavor, that is not something I want in candy form. We were speaking too about what would be the worst flavor, and I think we both came to the conclusion that anything cream-based would be pretty bad, so like a clam chowder, cream of mushroom. But did you come up with anything that you would want to actually try?
Yeah, I do have one soup that I think would actually taste really good in hard candy form, and that is French onion.
Oh, no.
Really?
That's still just as savory. I don't want something too, savory like that. There's too much bread, too much flavor in that.
You only have one word to describe food, and it's savory.
I know. Well,
I think French onion would be good, and I know that people are going to back me up on this. Ray had a good idea. He said Tom Yum because there's that nice sour flavor, and people are used to having hard candies that are sour. And in that same vein, more acidic, that type of food. Tomato soup and gazpacho could be okay, pretty tangy, and then I don't know about miso soup. I think it could be really good or really bad because we all love the umami, but do you want it in that particular form, or it could be terrible? So I'm jury's out about tomato soup, but I stick with French onion. I think it'd be good.
I'm still hung up on French onion. It just turns out I don't actually like French onion soup, which is, so I'm biased.
Okay, let's wrap it up there. Thanks for starting your morning with us, and have a wonderful Thursday. Week is flying by. For any questions, comments, or feedback, send an email to morningbrew@morningbrew.com. And if you're enjoying the show, a gentle nudge to share it with your friends, family, and coworkers. For a less gentle nudge, here's Toby with a specific sharing idea for inspiration.
I want you to share the podcast with someone who could use their very own MBD sweatshirt. These things are comfy. Neal and I rock them all the time. So send it to your biggest MBD fan, or send it to someone who's never listened to the podcast and say, hey, try a sweatshirt out too.
Let's roll the credits. Emily Milliron is our executive producer. Raymond Liu is our producer. Olivia Graham is our associate producer. Uchenna Ogu is our technical director. Garrett Peck is on audio. No Soup for You hair and makeup. Devin Emery is our chief content officer. Our show is a production of Morning Brew.
Great show today, Neal. Let's run it back tomorrow.